Hello everybody, and welcome to today's webcast on invoice automation for Dynamics AX and 365. Today we will show you how processing invoices can be fun and how it should be. So a quick intro, myself, Amir Kashniati, I'm the marketing and sales lead over at AX Mentor. Very excited about our partnership with Duop. I'd like to introduce Jarmo Ara, the sales director over at Duop.
Yes, thank you. Good morning everybody. As Ami said, I'm the sales director at Duop, and it gives me a great pleasure to welcome you all to this webinar. And first of all, I want to thank AX Mentor for giving us the opportunity to have this webinar. And we are excited that so many of you have joined us today to hear why processing invoices can be fun and should be. The goal of this webinar is to create a common understanding of the challenges in invoice handling and to tell you how to be world-class in AP automation and in Microsoft World. So who are we? Duop is a subsidiary of a Finnish service company with a great track record of digital business and financial management. We have well over a decade of experience and expertise in the Microsoft Dynamics ecosystem and in AP automation. At Duop, we have set out to develop and offer the best AP solution on the market for Dynamics AX and D365. We've seen firsthand what works and what doesn't, and we've noticed that none of the solutions on the market offered all the things we consider a world-class AP solution should offer. This is how our mission to create something outstanding began. Our second presenter is Anna Tujunen, who has years of experience in invoice automation, both as a user and as a consultant. She's Duop's rock-solid product lead and delivers our solution from an AP professional to AP professional. Here was the poll questions you just answered, and I think we might come back to the answers a little bit later. But let's look at the invoice approval process that we all face most probably at the moment. Normally, if it starts from the branch office, it takes up to 5 days for the invoice to reach the headquarters. Then the invoice goes through several people and time-consuming phases before it's finally approved, put into business applications and archived. The whole invoice approval process takes days and days. By the time everything is done, you've missed all your chances for any dynamic discounts. Too often the payments is already then late. And let's face it, it's a tedious process, but things could be different. Imagine the situation where you can receive invoices centrally all in one place, and the invoices are automatically matched against their respective purchase orders and posted. The modern process does not involve unnecessary people, which means less work on boring routines and more time to focus on exceptions. If we look at the invoice management of today, what can we see? Here is a list of things, some of those which you also highlighted. One of them is that we are using systems that are rarely integrated or compatible with each other. There are plenty of time-consuming tasks and tedious labor-intensive manual processes. Due to a lot of manual input work and the number of people involved, the processes are extremely prone to errors. And we all know for a fact that invoice management is just outright boring. To sum it up, we use systems and processes which lack efficiency, quality, and have a bad user experience. It amazes me that even today I see that two people can talk about invoice automation and mean completely different things. Some understand it's mostly about getting rid of paper through scanning and OCR. Some add workflow to the mix, and some only talk about the workflow. What is important to understand is that most solutions on the market only cover part of the process, but you should not settle for partial solution. When we talk about invoice automation, we mean automation across the entire process, including integration with the ERP system. This enables matching the invoices with purchase orders, and this kind of automation can be called world-class. And then I would like to draw your attention to one peculiarity. Today's world, we as consumers are used to incredible user interfaces and ease of use in all apps and web services we use. We are very critical of the user experience, and there's certain standard we expect every piece of software to deliver. But in the corporate world, we settle for less, a lot less. We use complicated and downright ugly software that just take the joy out of our workdays. Why? We need common understanding of what is acceptable of the software we use daily. It's not just about the usability and the beauty of the software, but it's also about efficiency and the return we get on our investment in the software. And like in this picture, I'd like to roar and jump and shout, wake up, because I think we need a lot better. We deserve a lot better. Now, if we look at what companies that are performing well in the benchmark studies have in common, what are they doing right? Obviously, they've gotten rid of paper. In addition to that, they're automating through matching. What does this mean? Well, you all know that purchase orders are what purchase orders are and why they are made. The actual decision to buy, that needs an approval. When the PO is done and approved, now no one should touch the process anymore. Ideally, the process is touchless from there onwards. There's also a lot of contracts and recurring invoices, such as utility bills. Time shouldn't be wasted on this either, when automating the process has been made so easy these days. As we all know, PO matching is the basis for making the process automated, and doing this also provides good prediction about the future cost and cash flow. The best performers also allow their personnel to approve invoices with a workflow tool across the entire organization. They know the efficiency of their process, meaning they basically know the cost of handling an invoice on average. With a paper-based process, this costs around $10 per invoice, but with automation, you get down to $5 or even less. And lastly, the best performance look beyond AP function, integrating procurement with accounts payable with the help of ERP integration. And to conclude my part, I'd like to leave you all with this image of an ideal world. In an ideal world, there's no more late payments and companies can enjoy the benefits of dynamic discounting to the fullest. There are no more delays in reviewing and approving invoices and no complaints about clunky corporate software. In an ideal world, a motivated AP team is supporting the business to excel. People cannot wait to review and approve invoices, and the AP team can focus on exceptions rather than repetitive, tedious tasks. And the truth is, the ideal world is in fact within our reach. And soon we will see a glimpse of that ideal world. But now it's time for me to hand over to Amir and Anna. So it's a short Q&A session with Anna and Amir.
Thank you, Jarmo.
Thank you.
So Anna, just a couple questions so our audience can kind of get a better grasp on what's going on with Dynamics and the user experience with Duop. I've heard that, a lot of emphasis that Duop is seamlessly integrated with Dynamics. What do you see as some of the benefits of this?
I'm going to tackle this from two different perspectives. So from an AP clerk's point of view and then the CFO's point of view. For both of those, the seamless integration means that the already up-to-date data in the ERP system is utilized. So data used is correct all the time. For AP clerks, the seamless integration means less manual work and less errors and less time actually used for correcting those errors. So it's just kind of better efficiency. And due to automation, the focus is shifted away from the kind of the boring and manual work and we want to kind of have more sense making and kind of expert work for the AP clerks. A good example of this would be the kind of monitoring of a machine learning while it is actually doing the boring manual part of the work. Then from a CFO's perspective, the seamless integration with Dynamics means that the familiar business logic stays the same within the AP solution too. The process is transparent and you stay in control every step of the way. And finally, the seamless integration means that the software works right out of the box, which tends to lead to both cost and time savings.
Great, great. And I guess transitioning over to user experience, so we can talk a little bit about that. What does that mean to you?
Well, first of all, it doesn't mean only how the software looks like. So it's not just about having pretty colors. Yeah. So great user experience means that the software is quick to adopt and it's intuitive. Like Jarmo already said that as consumers we're used to only having apps with great usability and as well as great functionality, and if not, the apps tend to die. Well, I don't think we should have it any other way in corporate software either. And of course, user experience ultimately means quick return on investment, which is something I think we all value. Before going to the demo, I'm going to quickly show the kind of positioning where we are. What does AX do or the D365 do, and what does DoUp do? So starting from the D365 point of view, so we have the purchase order, all master data, business logic, and even the users in AX. And then when we have the purchase order, we use the purchase order module in every way for receiving the goods, and if we want to receive also the services. If not, that's okay too. And then we'll move that information to DoUp, and DoUp is the place where the invoices arrive. So we first get those there. We have different channels for receiving those invoices. You can have e-invoices, EDI invoices. You can have your in-house scanning, external scanning, or we can email invoices in as PDFs, and also we can integrate to a vendor portal, or we can kind of be help there to provide a vendor portal for you. So no matter what the channel is, we get the invoices to DoUp, and at that point we kind of divide them to two different invoice types. We have the PO invoices that have the purchase order related, or then we talk about, this is kind of my term, we talk about cost invoices. Cost invoices are invoices that don't have a PO in D365, but we might have, for example, inside our DoUp, we might have a contract, for example, what we're matching against to, or we can have other kind of automation inside DoUp. But there is a rough deviation to two different parts of invoices. For the PO invoices, we of course want to have matching, hopefully automated matching, so that if the invoices match to the original PO, we wouldn't have to do anything to those. Those will be marked as approved in DoUp, and then they will be posted to AX. But if not, if the invoice doesn't match, if the PO doesn't match, we will send those invoices to be routed and matched within the organization. The cost invoices will also go to this routing, so approval workflow, where we get the validation that yes, these were the prices and it was okay to buy these items. Whatever the kind of the invoice type is, both of those types will end up to be approved. And after that, we can transfer them automatically to AX, or we can have another checkpoint if we want to have the final look before we're actually posting those to our accounts payable in AX and into GL. now I am switching to my DoApp application, which I have open here. This is the the main view of DoApp. When I open the software, I usually have at least one invoice here in my active section, and then I always have previous invoices that I have handled before from the same vendor already in place to to show me information of the previously handled invoices. Then I have next invoices, which are just waiting for me to be handled. Just to make it a bit more clear, I'll close these other two sections for now, and we'll just focus on this invoice that I have currently here waiting for my handling. First of all, I'll like to note that the workflow of this selected invoice is here. We have this green circle which indicates that which step of the workflow is actually happening now. And first I want to show you the AP clerk task that the AP clerk's first task that they do in the software. Depending on your company policy or your company process, you can have different tasks that need to be done in this this first phase. You might have the scanning part, adding the invoices, which the AP clerk starts with, and then we'll might have the coding done already at this point, or we could have some of the coding done already at this point. Then we might have the PO matching, or at least trying to find the PO numbers for the invoices at this part. But those are the parts of the process that you can actually choose when you want to do those. But it's usually good to have them already in this first phase. About the the routing. So we already are looking at this this workflow up here. So what we want to have is to default the persons who will handle this invoice as good as possible. We are able to use for that, we're able to get the PO, from the POs we're able to get the people who have made the original PO. We are able to put vendor defaults for approvers who are handling the invoices, and then we can also have this workflow templates that we can add to vendors or invoice types, or just pick while we are actually handling the invoice. So I would like to have these defaulted, but if they are wrong or if I want to make changes, it's really easy to make those changes by just modifying that workflow on the go. I can do a lot of different tasks. I can, for example, split the workflow, which is now I have this workflow going to two different handlers the next, or I can I'll remove that split now. I can change whoever in the workflow in the latter phases, or I can add more steps to the workflow. If I want, I can also save this new modified workflow to be as a template, so I can use that template later again. But that's very important to us, that the usage of the workflow is very easy and I can modify it the way I want. When selecting the approvers, I have a very short list here of persons who can do actually the approving. We can set monetary limits and also dimension limitations on who on this cost center can approve this invoice. So based on what is the total amount of the invoice, I get this list to be shorter, and that's the way we can control that the approving is done by the correct persons. When the workflow is correct, and if I don't have any other tasks that I want to do to this invoice, for example the coding, I can approve this invoice and it will move to the next person in the workflow. But in my case now, I think we could also do some coding. So I'll show quickly kind of how we're able to do the coding when we just when we use some automation and when we do it manually. First of all, I'll just start by kind of typing in the ledger account that I want to use. It is now automatically fetching that account structure from our AX, and it is validating the correct account structure, so I'm not able to add dimensions that are not allowed. It's already retrieved default dimensions either from the account structure or from the vendor defaults. I can check if those are correct, and then I can kind of start adding the other dimensions that are missing. Also, the sales tax or tax groups, these are calculated by AX, so we're not building our own logic in here. You don't have to update your tax codes to 2 different places. We only want to use the ones that you have in AX, and if you don't use those in AX, then we don't have that requirement either to fill those here. Okay, so now I did manually this one coding line. But I can also, because I had the previous invoices here, I'll now remove this coding line that I already did, and let's do that again. So as I mentioned before, the previous invoices section is there to help me to get quickly the information on how this invoice was handled the last time. And because I have that filter there, I'm able to see this invoice that had exactly the same sum as the same total amount that this invoice that I'm handling already. So I know that I want to copy the codings from that invoice. So what I can do, I'll click that open, and I'll actually just click on copy, and I'll paste those codings to this current invoice. So now I've kind of utilized that information from the old invoice, and immediately without doing any keying in, I'm able to get that to this invoice. Other things we can also kind of get from the previous invoices, of course, the workflows, and especially when the workflows are complicated like with this, it's easy to just get that information and copy that to the current invoice. Okay, I will now send this invoice to the next person in the workflow. I already had that in place, and when I click this, it will lift the next invoice from the next invoices to my active invoices. So I now have the next invoice to be handled. I'll actually skip one invoice and take the next one I have here, and I'll move that to my active invoice section, because this is a purchase order invoice. So the handling for the purchase order invoices is a bit different. For the PO invoices, we're not doing the coding. We want to get the PO numbers identified from the invoice picture automatically, but if not, we are able to actually make the selection from the PO list that I have available here. It's already filtering for me the POs that are for this vendor now open or received in AX. And if I click on a PO number, it will already show me the packing slips that are related. If I want to use it kind of the vice versa, that I only know the packing slip number, I could also click on that, and it would tell me which PO that relates to. But now I'll just kind of use that okay, this PO and these both packing slips. I can also here already pick that I only want to use this packing slip, so it would only choose the items that I have on that packing slip for this invoice match. When I'm done, it will actually go and retrieve those invoices, those purchase order lines and packing slip lines that I have in AX. And those are the quantities that I have available. There is a lot of kind of extra fields, extra kind of fields that we can get from AX that will give us more information, so we're able to do the matching correctly. But the basic view is always the same. If I have to now do, well, there was no difference. Actually, this is now matching. The invoice total is matching to the available lines. But I could now make changes here to be able to match it if it wouldn't be matching. We're able to use tolerances, of course, so that we have a certain threshold within it's okay to approve that invoice, even though it isn't matching exactly, but we can make changes to the matching quantity and the matching unit price so that we're able to get that to match. I can also add the miscellaneous charges here, so it doesn't matter if you have those in your AX or the D365. If, for example, there is an extra service fee that you need to add, you can add it also here, and it will go to the miscellaneous charges on the time of booking that invoice to AX. How the workflow works with the PO invoices is that if we are able to recognize the PO number already in the first phase before even the AP clerk starts handling it and it already matches, you can set up it so that those will be handled touchless. So not even the AP clerk has to handle those. Then there is the kind of the second phase, because some companies want to always have a first look of the invoices, so you are able to set your level of automation here. So you can have it so that the AP clerk always checks that the invoice is correct, or the invoice itself is okay and the PO numbers picked for that invoice are the correct ones, and after that the automation will check if it matches. So at that point it would always kind of skip from this part of the workflow forward. Then you have the kind of the third level of matching it automatically, so that we always know that we get the invoice before we actually get the shipment. So then we would know that they would, I would never be able to match those invoices automatically. So they would always go to the reviewer, because there is many days that we need to wait for the product receipt to be booked. So we're able to set this kind of this waiting phase, or we put actually the workflow on pause. So you can set this amount of days, how long we are waiting for those goods to arrive, so that it doesn't go to the handler's invoice account before we have waited for that couple of days for the goods to arrive. And when the wait time is over, if it doesn't match after that, then it will go to the reviewer or approver to be handled and matched against the PO. That was about the POs. Now I'll actually would like to show a bit about the kind of the AP clerk's control view, and in the same time I want to show how does it look like if I would be Brad. So a good feature for the AP clerk, so that they're really able to monitor the invoices in workflow, is that we have this kind of ability to impersonate certain users. So now I'm in the admin part, I'll select the persons whose invoice I want to look, and then by clicking this impersonation I am actually able to go in and see Brad's view. So in Brad's view you see that there is a lot less buttons here because Brad is just a kind of approver in the organization. They don't have the same buttons as the AP clerk had, and you tend to have less invoices also, as they're just handling their own invoices and not the whole companies like the AP clerk. Here is the invoice I previously sent for approval, and here I can see the coding that the AP clerk has already done. If I need to add comments, I'm easily able to do those. And what I think is a very good feature also is that I can also see the full history of the tasks that have been done to this invoice. This is very good for the AP clerks and also for the kind of the approvers also, to see who has already been handling the invoice, or what are the tasks that have been done to it. If I would be now as Brad, and I see that this approver is the wrong person, so it might be actually my line manager, but I see that that is the wrong person, I'm also able to do the workflow modification so that I'm able to select the correct person for that. This can also be prevented, that you are not able to modify the workflow, but we usually think that it's better to have that limited list of allowed approvers, and then the kind of the workflow can be modified when needed. So now I'm able to kind of send this invoice to the correct person by approving it like this, and also for me, the next invoice in line that is waiting for my handling is automatically moved to the active section. When I'm done with the impersonation part, I'm able to stop the impersonating, and now I'm going back to the AP clerk's view. Other things for the AP clerks to be able to monitor the system is the good BI information that we have built. So we have these BI dashboards that we've built to different roles. For us, it's really important to have their own KPIs for AP clerks, the kind of the finance part, and also for the CFOs and for the buyers also. The BI dashboards can be distributed in basically 3 different ways. We have some dashboards embedded inside DoApp, but then we can also give you this kind of controller package of working with the reports on your own desktop Power BI. Or we can publish your company's own reports into your Power BI portal in web. I'll show you an example of one of the dashboards that we have for kind of, this is for AP clerks for their monitoring on the open invoices. And here I'm able to kind of see the open invoices in certain time limits. And I see that, well, this is not a good situation, that I already have 28 invoices that are due. But by clicking that, I'm able to get the statistics on who are the persons that are actually hogging those invoices. So I'm able to kind of contact these persons directly and get those invoices approved. And then I also have the vendors, which invoices are already due. So if I need to contact the vendor, I'm able to say that, sorry, due to this person's sick leave, we have a lot of pending invoices for you. So just be patient. You can drill down from these reports right at to the kind of the invoice level, and we have a lot of these reports, and with the control package you're actually able to access your own database and build also your own reports. Good. now I would like to show you our mobile solution. Just a quick second. I'll actually have to mirror my mobile to my screen. Let's see if it's working. Yes, looks good. Sorry. Okay, I'll now open our mobile application. So, like we were just minutes ago, we were handling Brad's invoices. So Brad was the approver or the reviewer who was handling, who was doing the approving of the invoice, that it's valid and the prices are correct. We also have this mobile software for the approvers, that they're easily able to approve the invoices on the go. When I open the software, it has a stack of cards, and all of those cards represent one invoice. If I want to just kind of browse through them, I'm able to swipe to the left, and when I see an invoice I want to handle, I could swipe to the right, and that means it's accepted. I'll actually approve that invoice there, and now it was approved, and now I can continue with the other invoices I had. If I need to look at the details a bit more, oops, sorry, the air server actually, it actually cracks. Don't settle. There we go. There was my invoice. I was about to open it. Yes. If I need to see more the details of the invoice before approving it, I'm able to open and actually browse through, see all the attachments that there is. I'm able to see the workflow. I'm also able to modify the workflow here also if the persons in the workflow are incorrect. If this invoice doesn't even belong to me, I'm able to return it to the previous handler or return it back to the AP clerk. And then I can of course leave comments also. And I can do the coding in the mobile. Doing the coding in the mobile was really important to us because that is usually something that you have to make changes to. So not many of the other AP mobile solutions have this coding that you can do here, but we do. And what's good also is that we're also utilizing the AX project coding. So if I want to do the coding to project of fixed assets, I can also do that here. One of the final kind of important things that we also have here is that we have also here the history of the previous invoices that were handled by the same vendor. So to be able to actually approve the invoices in your mobile so that you don't have to open your email or your file cabinets for the contracts is to be able to see how the invoice from the same vendor was handled the previous time. To kind of see what was the coding and is the price the same on this invoice. So that's why we do have the invoice history here, and I think that's proven to be a very, very good asset for to liberate us from our desktop approving. That was our mobile solution. This is all I have for the demo.
So I'll go ahead and start reading from the top, and we'll see if there's some overlap with some of the other questions that came in. So the first question, you mentioned an interesting statistic of lowering cost to process an invoice from $10 an invoice to $5 an invoice as an example. Do you have a process to measure this? Ability to help a customer understand the savings with objective measurable target is very helpful.
Jarmo, this is probably for you.
Well, basically, when we look at the process as it is at the moment, there's a lot of manual, labor-intensive work related. So basically, the place to save a lot of cost is from there. And based on experience, what we have seen in a lot of customer cases throughout Europe, for example, is that the costs are really lower, getting lower to half or even less when you introduce a modern optimized AP automation solution.
Can I add to that we tend to practice what we preach, so that in DUAP, for example, in our pricing we base our pricing on the transaction cost, so that we kind of get a price per invoice. So we want that to be easy also when following the kind of the cost that for the use of a software. You're able to really track exactly what the cost would be, and for that you just kind of need to add your own personnel costs into the handling.
Great. Moving to the next question. Can we limit who can alter the workflow or ask the person to add a reason of changing for documentation purposes?
Yes. Actually, there is a good example here that if I want to return this invoice to the AP clerk or the previous handler, I'm not, for example, allowed to send it unless I actually write the comment on how that was done. And we can limit the changing of workflow so that the people inside the workflow wouldn't be able to do that, but only the AP clerk would be.
Great. Then is there reporting analytics with this application?
Power BI, yes.
Yes. Great. Is this
and now I have to mention, coming for that analytics, that I didn't even mention the machine learning, which we are already utilizing, and we are increasing that a lot in the near months. So machine learning is also the method of analyzing the history of the invoices that we have handled, so that we're able to, for example, try and find the correct approvers to those invoices in the future.
And is this workflow tied to what is built in AX, or can it be so that you don't have workflow builds to be managed in both systems?
So currently we are not integrating with the workflow in D365, and we are using only our workflow. It's not said that we wouldn't ever integrate with that, but now we want to use our own, because the needs for the AP workflows is usually a bit simpler or lighter than the workflow that you have in AX. And there is a certain kind of fine point of having the flexibility that you need to be able to get those invoices approved, and in the same time to have those rules that you want to apply so that the wrong persons can't approve the invoices. So we think that that was the kind of the main reason why we built our own workflow core to our DUAP.
How long does it take to get DUAP up and running?
Well, not long. It depends on a lot of the change management that your company needs. If your company is ready for that, and we're able to instantly put our AX package in, it doesn't take a lot of time to ramp it up. It's more about getting to modify the process in the way that your company to your company's needs, but the technical part of setting this up doesn't take more than hours when we have all that information that we need to be able to set it up.
And will this solution work with AX 2012 R2, and what other versions will it work with?
Our AX 2012 version is coming right now. So we first built this for the D365, and the R2 and R3 versions are kind of just, I think they are already in testing, but they are here.
And does these invoice matches by financial dimension or by PO number or both?
Sorry, could you repeat it?
Sure. Do the invoice matching match by financial dimension or by PO number or both?
So the invoice matching, if we're talking about PO matching, so we want to first know the PO numbers and, if possible, the product receipts or the packing slips, packing slip numbers that we want to associate to this invoice. After that, we get the lines from AX, that what is the kind of total sum of these lines that we have associated to this invoice. Then we compare that to the information that we have on the invoice. So if we're able to get a match inside our tolerances, we're able to approve those invoices.
Can invoices be auto-coded?
Yes, they can be, and that is also a part where we use that machine learning. So if we don't have if we don't get that coding, for example, from the EDI material or from e-invoices or from a vendor default, then we can have the kind of the machine learning to guess us the correct ledger accounts and the dimensions.
And will Excel invoices work with DUOP?
So is that does that mean that the invoice is just kind of inside Excel, or is the data in Excel? Because if it's kind of if it's something that we can read from a data model like CSV file, then we are able to map that as an interface so that we're able to get the correct data to the correct fields inside DUOP. If it's an kind of a picture of an Excel, the invoice picture is in Excel, we don't have that now as a kind of a front page invoice, but you're able to add those Excels as an attachment. But I would have to kind of get into knowing what kind of Excel invoice that is exactly.
And then go into the next one. Do you support international invoices? What is the process?
Yes, we support international invoices. We are an international company, and we would be always adding, if there would be new formats, new international formats for an e-invoice, for example, we can always add those. But if it's just a layout, then we're also able to kind of add new layouts inside this. If it's about OCR, so that does the OCR recognize different countries, then we're able to kind of provide a list of the countries that which kind of invoice language we understand.
And then what level of setup, configuration, integration is needed to implement the DUOP solution?
So the AX package that we deliver, that has everything in it that we basically need. And after that, we supply the kind of the Azure setup that you need, but we need from you the consent for your Azure AD to be able to contact your AX and your kind of Azure AD accounts. But the setups that are done here is something that we usually, during the implementation, we do those based on the kind of specifications on how you want to route your invoices.